over and over again. This is from the Pope Francis. And there's his employee. Yeah, Pope Francis and his employee. And so that people who don't understand are not offended when they understand that he's the Pope's employee. You understand? That's a Pope's employee. But let's go down to him explaining so that you'll understand the shell corporations. Now somebody get the mic. Somebody get the mic. Somebody get the mic. Preferably a sister to read this. All right. Now, read from that point. Read from that point, and I'm going to go up. Read. You can read.
All efforts shall be made by the Grand Army of the Republic to spare life and property while undertaking any action whatsoever within the states of the Union, without exception. The Grand Army of the Republic is uniquely enabled by these orders to operate on the land of the 50 organic states for the purpose of securing the lives and properties of the American states and the American states' citizens.
Real quick, stop right there. Now, if you can read, you understand that he's actually telling you history about the shells without discussing them directly. But yet he's discussing them directly, but most people who don't have what you call history degrees wouldn't even know what they're reading that he's telling you what I just put on the board. Oh, clear. Go ahead.
The Grand Army of the Republic is not a foreign army. It is composed primarily of American state citizens. Notice
the words and the phrases that he's using. All right, now, go ahead.
If required to take field position, the local commanders shall make every effort to communicate the basis of their authority and the reasons for the presence on American state soil.
Notice how he's making the distinction between the corporation and the land? All right, go ahead.
To ensure a prompt cessation of hostilities and a widespread understanding of the usurpation.
Write that down, usurpation, so you can understand what he's talking about, and frauds.
And acts of frauds which have led to any conflict. All parties must be brought to understand the nature of the federal government, the limitations of its authority, and their own obligations to act in favor of the organic states of the Union.
You notice he's saying organic states, so now you must, when he says organic states, you're supposed to be able, now it would be one more shell up here, and you, being educated, were supposed to be naming which one it is. And if you fail to pick this one out, you're incompetent. You understand? And all the rest of them are United States too now. All right, continue, sister. Go ahead.
The Grand Army of the Republic shall continue to operate under General Orders 100 known as the
Libra Code.
Libra Code.
Write that down, Libra Code, y'all. So these are things you need in your literature. Libra Code. Because these things are operating and you need to know. So if you're doing anything, you need to know what you're functioning with and functioning under, and what they're functioning against you. Are we clear? All right, read it, says.
Extant from the pen of the last Republic President, Abraham.
So he's telling you that's the last Republic President. So as you know, and we don't have to tell you, that most people are not aware that Lincoln was the last president. Are we clear? That's to demonstrate to you how much you don't know about history. Are we clear? And why a lot of people get confused what the politicians are doing in their corruption, and it's always costing the people. Now you know why. Because they are what? They set up a secret oligarchy, and they're raping you ever since. That's where your poverty is. Are we clear, you all? You're not poor, you're poor artificially under frauds and semantic deceit. That's why they don't teach you law and history. All right, continue to read, sister.
No orders, executive or otherwise, issued by Barack H. Obama pretending authority on the land of the American states while operating as president of the United States Corporation, nor as
he just named two shells right there. You must know the distinction, and you must be able to follow this. Are we clear? Go ahead.
Nor as the president of the United States of America, minor.
Emphasize. Now it's another shell. Continue.
Or owed any performance by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Ham, or any ordinary
is a cover word for people in both military and political office service with what you call less titles than the executive. Collectively, they're ordinaries. All right? So get familiar with these terms, but you need to know them when you're dealing with these people, particularly these administrators who are pretending to be judges. They're an ordinary. So if you're going to start trying to claim your estate, your language better match what you think you know. Because as soon as you demonstrate that you don't know, they're going to treat you as an incompetent. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you don't know your history and you're an heir. And since we're talking heirship, an incompetent heir can be declared not worthy or mature. That's another reason why they apply the word minority. Or people think it means Afrocentric numbers. It really means grown people that wear these pants. No, really, it's a legal status. Then it means they're not descendable in law. But they don't know that because they don't read law books. See? And so their legal guys are trained to make them think it means Afrocentricity. By numbers. It means incompetent. All right, continue read, sister.
All plainly stated grants of contractual authority evidenced in the Constitution for the United States of America.
Now, there you go. Now, which one is that, y'all, on the table? It is not. It is the first one in the front. Yes, you're right, but name the position. That's the organic United States, the agreement between the Moors and the Europeans, i.e. the deists, not Christians, were called Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Madison, all of the crew. You understand? That's what Obama was talking about when he went to Hikuta. All right? Now continue reading.
Remains in place. Remained in place. Subject to the good faith performance of the accompanying obligations and treaties.
So now you can see the Constitution for the United States of America remain in place subject to good faith performance of the accompanying obligations and treaties. Why do you think they don't talk about the treaties when they're teaching our people? Because the Constitution and treaty are to be looked at as one document. Because they're national wills. Now, read this is important. Go ahead.
Mr. Obama is the president of a governmental services corporation.
Is it shall?
Under contract to provide
stipulated services. To be organic. Now that's the small u. That's the agreement between the Moors and the Constantinians, i.e. the Union. Now you understand when they say Lincoln was trying to save the Union and bankrupted? No, he bankrupted that corporate entity. And then they killed him, we covered up, and then said that he bankrupted the United States organic. He did not. They secretly, the Congress set up an oligarchy and converted the debt to that bankrupt corporation onto the organic. And we, being the heirs, are backing all U.S. T-bonds that have been on the stock market for all these years. Go ahead, continue.
Services to organic states and is on their payroll. He otherwise acts as a foreign dignitary representing the United States of America.
Now see how this emphasized?
Yeah.
So now you all understand that the United States is actually a foreign corporation and it's not a country. What happens if you think it's a country and you teach your children it's a country? You just gave up their birthright. You understand?
All right.
Go ahead. Go down.
What was the meaning of the bankruptcy with the war, the Civil War?
That's the Civil War was set up to design the fraud that was to take place thereafter.
Well, what would he mean the bankruptcy?
He bankrupted that corporation because they were using him to undermine the republic. See this, keep this in mind. He ran for president of the corporate entity. The misinformation is that he ran for president of the United States organic. He couldn't because he's a member of the bar. That's why I told you that. But he was trying to protect it because they were trying to undermine it under the secret treaty of Rome. We're talking real history, not what the masses get. Now, so he's operating the United States Republic to preserve it, although he's not officially in that office. But he has the service contracts. Now, so these shells continue just as they were. These shells still continue. This is why the Pope is out in the history. So there is no lawful precedence after Lincoln. Everybody is still what? Dealing with that debt of that corporate entity that they can falsely, under fraud, converting on us. And this has been the whole politics. The whole modern politics is just BS here. Well, let's go down here. Let's go down here. And read these last two, and then we're going like over the floor, and then just talk. Because I want your concepts to be correct. You all can read the rest of this in your spare time. All right, go ahead. Here we go. We know that the current circumstances in part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago. So you got to know what he's talking about, right? So if you don't know history, you don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about the creation of these shells. That's the foundation of the criminal acts, you see, which resulted in the commercial enslavement. This is where all the commerce, the humans was put in a commercial venue. What humans? Was it Indians? White Christian Americans and all this sort of stuff? No. We know that the current circumstances in part result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of who? African Americans. Who were the African Americans? They were Moorish Americans, the treaty. See what Obama was telling you? Who were summarily claimed as chattels backing U.S. government debt in wake of the Civil War. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the Civil War was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the American states and the American state citizens. So you see how these distinctions must be made? That we are dealing with today. So all the stuff, that problems that you're dealing with today, this is where its root is. It is uniquely fitting that the Grand Army of the Republic is recalled to settle the circumstance in favor of the people. Attachments: Civil Orders Anna Maria Wilhelmina, Anna Sophia Ritzinger von Ritzenstein von Lettenberg, private attorney in service to His Holiness Pope Francis, documents related. The United States isn't a country, it's a corporation of the hidden Vatican Crown Empire. Very simple. So the Pope's telling you history since you're black labor law, and it's an example, and these people in Louisville probably have the Pope's telling you. And you're the heirs to the world's largest estate. So all your problems that you're dealing with, economic, etc., are artificial. Not only are now, always have been. So, this whole paradigm has been from that 1754 United States Corporation Company that Lincoln bankrupted. It has been a role with Congress operating a secret oligarchy to continuously convert that debt from 1754 corporation that Lincoln bankrupted onto the heirs of the estate, African Americans, i.e. descendants of the Moors, Moorish Americans. Now you understand the Moorish Divine National Movement? And if you don't understand that history, you don't understand why he did what he did. And then you also don't understand why you have constant sellout and people trying to suppress this information or misrepresent it. Because it means institutions will literally collapse. Literally. Now you understand King Alfred, Rex 84, etc. And the German warfare they're doing in Atlanta, putting all these bioweapons out here, and the GMOs trying to kill people. Chemtrails and all that stuff. House Bill Resolution 2847, on the name of employment, stealing all your savings accounts, break your families. Clear. Now, Dred Scott case, as you all know, most important slave case ever to come before the Supreme Courts of the United States. And now you understand the status issue. All clear. Proper person. All right? So, as we told you, 10, 15 years ago, when you understand this information, you understand why I did that lecture in Connecticut about 10 years ago, the danger of the UCCs. Not that they don't have representation of what they mean, but if you don't know this history, and you start dealing with them, you're walking in dangerous water. Because when you complete the cycle, they're not going to honor it anyway. Because to honor it, they got to talk about the real error. You see? And people think, oh, debtor, creditor. See, debtor, creditor? What debtor? That corporate entity in France, 1754, that Lincoln bankrupted. Not you. Now you see what Raleigh says to you, children, you don't know, you're just rich. Now you understand where that statement comes from? Now you see why black people keep misrepresenting William Raleigh or trying to minimize it? Because they're beneficiaries of the secretary of the Roman, i.e. sellouts, Judases. Now you don't have to accept that. Know the history and you can tell who's who by their actions. They'll tell you. But if you don't know this history, you get emotionally tied. You're not looking at the pieces. Once you understand this history, anybody, Europeans or Asiatics, will tell you who they are and whether they're working for Rome or really working for the heirs of the estate. It is that simple. And to that degree, it's them to us. However, for the Europeans that want to maintain the honor of the Republic, someone want it back in house. But that's it. Everybody else got to go. And since you all haven't done your job, that's why the Manchurians are stepping in. Raleigh told me that your brothers would have to come from the east of Eden, because they already knew that you'd be compromised. Great.
Mike.
I have a question. Can someone correct your status if But they're still coming to be Negro, colored, and black.
Answer your own question.
I don't think so.
Can you sell a pit bull if you keep on calling them announcement?
All right.
Let me assess that.
Yeah, okay.
Can you still call them peanut butter when you collected it off the lawn?
Nah.
I mean, it's very simple. And see, the deal of it is we have to get out of our mind the juvenile gray areas by simply dealing with the facts. Don't interject your biases.
I was shared this information with the old PPT. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Go ahead.
On the People's Public Trust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, what I've learned here, this is really non-effective with all the UCCs and all that.
Yes.
You have to, as you said, you have to know the history.
Yes.
Because you would have to deal with, because they have like a courtesy notice that you send out to you, and the people that you deal with and stuff,
Let me suggest this to you. The history I just gave you tells you you have an issue of heirship.
Right.
You have a lot of people making claims. It doesn't mean they don't understand process. It doesn't mean they don't understand estate law and trust law. They're not the heirs. What you have is Europeans, because the middle class is being dissolved, trying to preserve their stuff that don't belong to them. That's why I read the Post letter, so you can understand who are the real heirs. African Americans. Ain't no Indians, because this ain't India. Ain't no white Americans and Christian, white sovereign, all these other things that they've been saying. What you see is Europeans telling part of the history to claim their estates because they're being dissolved. They've been thrown under the bus. So they're trying to claim the protections of constitutions and treaties that they themselves stepped off of for benefit. This was created middle class. It's our estate. So they're trying to make a claim. If they're not Moorish American, they ain't got no claim.
Well,
No, wait, hold on. I'm not talking about process. I'm talking about you're given this history so that you can take instruments like that are diversions, learn from them, but at the same time don't be fooled by them. Are they flying their colors?
no.
They talking about the Moorish Empire?
No.
They talking about the treaty and constitution?
No. They're just talking about a slavery system.
Good, interesting. Well, we're talking about heirship.
Yeah.
And if you ain't an heir, you ain't got no claim. Because them bonds that back the U.S. government debt since the Civil War is on us, not anybody else. So ain't nobody got no claim but us. It don't mean they can't tell you something about history. But they ain't the sovereign.
Yeah.
And they're not the heir. See, this is what's happening. Stuff's getting raggedy, and everybody's trying to get back to Republic without telling this real history. That's why I'm giving you the history so that you don't get twisted. You'll have somebody named Rhinoceros and a whole bunch of other guys starting a whole bunch of states and getting you to try to sign on to some trust and some. No, this is the trust. It's very clearly where it is. Now you understand what Noble Drawley did. That's why I said if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. Because it's an heirship issue. Now they can get you diverted into arguing other stuff. Sounds beautiful. That buys them time. This is why I'm giving you the history so that when you get stuff like this, you can learn from it, but be able to decipher it. Because the European is going to tell you the truth. Some of it. But you got to figure the rest out because you're the heir. See, this would everybody look at this. When Hitler nationalized Germany, there was a lot of people in Germany during that time talking about, yeah, it's my stuff. I got this factory. Yeah, this railroad track is mine. And I got this gold and stuff. He said, yeah, you German? I got a religion. Fine. Go home to your mama. Party's over. You don't have to go home. But you're leaving here. Here's some frog feet, some logs along the shore, some ships, some kites, some balloons. Start blowing them up. I hope they rise. But you're leaving here. And anybody who don't leave here, you're invited to a barbecue. Translation, who's your mama? You're talking airship. And the reason why we give you this history is to put you in the right frame of mind. If the people knew the history, half these questions wouldn't exist. You know why the questions exist? We doubt ourselves. There's nothing wrong with that, but it means we have purging to do. The issue is for to make sure she doesn't grow up with the contamination in the first place. Do you understand? If she doesn't grow up with contamination, do you know how many of her cells will activate naturally? Naturally. Her intelligence will rise so fast that it'll probably scare her mother. The only reason why these people aren't operating spiritually the way they should is because of their belief systems, which is mind control. Yeah. In other words, it's injected into them to suppress their cellular memory that's given to them by their mother. The same way that she gives them food through the placenta, she codes them memories of generations minimally 7 back. Minimally. Religion is the cultural science to teach you how to tap it. And we ain't talking about doing salami baloney type stuff that they be telling you. We're talking about actual disciplines. Those disciplines are taught, some of them, in the highest degrees of masonry. That's why they keep telling people it's spooky, so to keep you from it. And even in those clubs, they corrupt it. You know, to keep you guys paying bills. They're bill payers, because they get a substitute. And it's also why so-called black Masons are called clandestine. After getting this information, they still claim to be black, they're clandestine. And so the Romans are saying, you need to burn all their charters, they're phonies. They get, first lesson, they get a roof to Moabites, and they still claim to be black, they're clandestine. But you usually hear the story of them wanting to burn Prince Hall's charters as a racist type thing, when really they claim to be black. They're clandestine. For real. Because ain't nobody heirs here but the Moors. They're the heirs. They're the people of the land. They're the nationals who have been overthrown and enslaved by European colonial operations. And then the payoffs are to tell the people they just don't like your color, and so to divert them from the airship. So they start arguing, light skin, orange skin, green guy. And what we gotta do is make them know that we somebody, and all that kind of stuff. It sounds all good. It's BS diversion. That same guy that's saying them kind of statements in secret got a fez. Don't know who the Moors are though. Yeah, right. That's for people who are not scholars. Scholars know all these leaders are minions. All of them. Not some of them. All of them. Because this knowledge is known by all scholars. All. It ain't got nothing to do with what they believe, their religions. This is universal knowledge. It's been by design kept from those who are tagged Negro, black, color, Latino, whatever they call them this week, who are the direct heirs of the Moors. And that's your whole politics. That's it. And that's the guide point. the Unam Sanctum policy. And you're declared dead at sea until proven otherwise. That's why the first thing you do is declare your nationality, and you fly your colors because you're not an abandoned vessel. Are we clear? All right, any more questions? So when you go ahead. Wait, you want to ask one?
No. Well, I guess I should, what's coming up, I guess I need to speak about.
So when you're doing writs, you all, when you're doing writs or anything like that, you must do those writs with this consciousness. And this is also, now, DA. Remember, and this is back to concepts, right? And this is back to concept as to why. Now see, like if you're going to use any instruments of theirs, like a quick claim deed or something like that, you convert it back to a loyal, aboriginal, paramount, clear, perfect title of conveyance. And this would go in harmony with reversioner, you know, the article reversioner, to perfect your concept. And keep in mind, until 1913, see this allodial aboriginal paramount title? Now this is D's, this is D's, where she was putting on her stuff. There's an international private trust and a vow as amended curative affidavit notices of Ruth and Moral Vitus Trust. Now that's the name of her trust, etc. But this is where you would use the nom de guerre, that would be the nom de guerre that they would use in all capital letters to attach to the Sister QV Trust Act that they did in '66, which is in the series of the church bulls, and that's what they created the 14th Amendment off of. Or keep in mind. See, so essentially you're claiming competency as an heir. See, because in other words, so you're not dead at sea. That's another reason why you're flying your colors. I just want to show you that real quick in concept. See, so you really you're taking claim on the interest. See, the interest of that's the Sister Q. See the Sister Q? And you notice that the Pope did the uppercase and small case too, because he's telling you what's up. But you're supposed to already have known that. You know, but I'm just telling you that to show you where the Pope is now just backing up everything Charlie's been telling you from day one. Because it's late in the game, but this is why, you know, some of the Europeans, that's why they blocked all the highways when they came here to Philadelphia. And they came to Philadelphia, Shaka Amexem, because that's where they took your birthright. And that's what the Mummers Parade is, celebration of your fall. So these are little things for you to know. So that you can look at things totally differently. And keep in mind that George and the leaders of the Whigmore Party, etc., were in communication constantly with the setup of the Mummers Parade in Philadelphia. And so when you see this last part, get the concept. See that the notice of illusionary to foreign corporate entities, personnel, agencies, and persons, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Philadelphia, and the associated democracy states of. You see, so she's addressing them because they're acting as what? Trustees. But they're actually board of directors for the corporate entities. You see? So let me pull this up so that you all can see. All right, read, y'all. Princess, read. You got the mic?
Start the Commonwealth.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Philadelphia, and the Associated Democracy State of are foreign corporations and
Corporate entities,
corporate entities and
franchisees. You need a bigger? All right. Can somebody sit on your side? I'd rather sisters read, because when sisters get it, everybody else will get it.
Are foreign corporate entities and franchises of the United States Corporation Company, a colorable, converted, and foreign entity whose sovereign capacity has been executed and dissolved since March 9, 1933. Reference Emergency Banking Relief Act.
Now that's the one that when Franklin Delano Roosevelt at 33, that's when they converted the birth certificates into bank bonds because they didn't have enough of the marriage certificates that was original bank bonds, etc., and the other instruments. And so that's what that's making reference to. All right. Now that United States just went bankruptcy May the 2nd of this year. But just keep you in concept. Continue.
Therefore, all public notaries are mere avowals to the superior status of the Moorish.
Hold on.
Moorish American nationals, heirs and natural people of the land herein attribute. This informational intercourse should not be deemed as nor assumed as a reflection of nor a notion of subjective or an admittance to the foreign, private, or profit jurisdiction of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In the matters of jurisdiction, all personal in personam, subject matter and territorial jurisdictions and reversions of estates are retained with the Moroccan Empire, Moorish National Public, federal government and its nationals.
All right, so that's the nationalization statement at the same time in an airship. Now, and I'm showing you that to demonstrate to you, and it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but your concepts must be right in that order. If your concepts are not in that order and you're dealing with anything with that European, he knows that you don't understand the real history and you will be declared an incompetent heir. And they're doing it constantly. They won't say it to you, they'll show it in their actions. So when they ask you what you want them to do, you're supposed to talk about their state. And if you don't talk about their state, they know that you're property. Do you understand? Because I know once in a while when you all are in issues before the Europeans, what they're calling courts or tribunals, according to how you're coming at them, and they'll ask you what you want them to do. That's what they're waiting for you to come up with. And if you don't go there, you're back in the Negro codes. By choice. Of course, you don't know that that's what's happening, but that's exactly what's happening. Are we clear?
So is
now,
it like when those persons came before Hillary Clinton when they were, going through this Black Lives Matter? And
well, that was set up by George Soros as a diversion. As a diversion. many of you got the excerpt that Dee and Haru produced? They did an excerpt of the lesson book 14A1 so that people have some tools to battle with.
A download?
What's that?
Is that on R&B base? Or is that on the R&B base?
That one, no. You did. Speak up. Yeah, listen, man, when you say something.
Give me a number and I don't know what they want me to decide on what price for it. I'm just saying, man, you just threw me under the bus.
But anyway, this is part of it that you promised. The Clearfield Trust Company, for those of you who are familiar with this, if you have any family members that having problems with foreclosure in the house, etc., stuff like that, use Clearfield Trust Company argument, because they're not telling you, but this Clearfield Trust case that is now stare decisis is based in that history I just gave you. And what the trust company was saying, you ain't pulling that neighbor code on us. And on principle, we're going to battle. Even though the check was for something like 26 notes that was bounced, that was forged. And that's the basis of the Clearfield Doctrine. So you understand why certain things we give you, why we give them to you to help you in whatever you're doing. Because this is it's behind it. They're not telling you, they're telling you, but if you don't know history, you don't know what you're looking at. Are we clear?
Mm-hmm.
Here you go, Will. Just give him the mic, because he's...
Come on.
You can start by going there. I don't know how to move walk. Knows that walk, man. Knows that, yeah, I got this, man. I got this. Hey, D. My phone hurts.
Yeah, my phone hurts.
You might as well come on to that.
No,
No, we're just saying that. Remember when you was training? My phone hurts.
I'm on the camera.
Good.
All right, civil lesson book 14, A1. It's Clearfield Trust versus United States, and basically more civil relation concepts. We didn't come up with a price as of yet, but you leave a number with me or Delilah, Hot Tweet, or Amok, and we can order it for you. I mean, we could do it for you. You can make your order, and then from there, you'll have your 14A1.
And that's a study so that you could do battle. Are we clear?
Did he drop the mic?
Now, keep in mind, see, now it's an important case because it is a 1942 case. For those of you who know law and jurisprudence, keep in mind with the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case, that was the case of 1938. And that's with the legislatures and the judiciary changed from legislating under public law, which is consonant with the American Constitution, and to the contrary became foreign entities and actors doing business and doing foreign activities, legislating under public policy. So keep that in mind. Public law and public policy, you must know the distinction. They're talking about the shells. And if you don't know that you're talking about the shells, logically, you wouldn't really know how to even proceed. You assume things and you'd be totally incompetent. You understand? So this is specifically giving you the background to the case to give you the nature of understanding where your arguments would be. Are we clear? So when you're talking to them in any lawful or legal processes, and you think that you're talking to government, you're not. You're talking to a private corporation registered in Puerto Rico with a representative operating here pretending to be government. Now you understand why I gave you that earlier history? Now, by you being the heir of the estate, if you call them judge or officer, they accept your offer because you're an heir. And when you make that statement, that's called a trust statement, in case you didn't know that. Do you understand? And then they start exercising that power. So don't get pissed. You're supposed to know the history. And am I right?
Yes,
Isn't it the rule, honor your mothers and your fathers?
that's right.
That your days may be longer upon the earth land? So you talking about a state, right? So they ain't talking about a cloud. It says earth land, right?
That's right.
So they can steal your estate, and if you don't know this history, you don't know you got an estate, you start talking stupid, and they take advantage of you, and then you want to call them prejudice when you actually out to lunch. Are we clear? That's why you're giving the history. All right? So that's what the Clearfield Doctrine is about. All right? And so you must understand the distinction. So I put examples so that you could have a measuring stick by which to look at these things. Are we clear? And this is what spurred Heru and Delilah to print this off for people who are in fights so that you can start protecting yourself, even though we know that you have other studies to do, because your concepts, for the most part, would be absolutely wrong if you don't know this history. All right? So that's why that's out there. And so it's actually a part of the book, but because people are at different degrees and people need to have some background, that's why I gave it to you. All right? And so that no matter what kind of information you come across, that your concepts will be right. So whether you're dealing with trying to authenticate the birth certificate or using uniform commercial codes, doesn't matter what methods that you're using, that your concepts will be more correct while trying to use them. And also understand bypassing, you don't damn need them. All you need is to be yourself, because it's an airship. And a lot of these different methodologies were actually introduced by Europeans to divert you and to buy time for them. Because when it boils down, can't nobody, I don't care how beautiful you make your argument, if you ain't Moorish American, you're not an heir. They're making the distinction between the nationals who have been fraudulently charged with the debt that don't damn exist when actually the heirs to the estate that was squandered. You see? And so when you understand that and you start teaching it to your children, they will not grow up with an inferiority complex. You don't have to sit around and talk about, you are somebody, I think. You know, all this stuff. Yeah, they're the world's largest estate. Once they understand this, they're going to grow up not only with pride, but they will not divert their energy and waste time, march around and circle nigger organizations. They will shun them like the plague that they absolutely are. Claim their estate and start learning early. And by the time they're teenagers, they'll be so sharp in jurisprudence, they can't come to communities, gentrify the communities no more. That's why they gentrify communities. These people don't even know they don't own property. And what I was looking for actually, to show you, for those of you who know, you understand what Tropicant was talking about when he was speaking on the floor of the House, and he was talking about before 1913, all property in North America was held by a allodial title. Now you understand the Aboriginal title? And most of these people never even heard of an Aboriginal title or an allodial title. All they know is deeds. And as soon as they start talking like that, the man knows they're under a spell. You understand? So we've got to get you confident being the heirs by knowing the history, and therefore, whenever you're making any claim, that your claim will be confident, and you will not mix connotative linguistics with the denotation of the heirship. Don't make that mistake, because as soon as you do, it's just like in the ring, you know, you get in the ring, you being all cute, you put your hand down because you want to do a selfie, and then somebody punch you in your eye, and then you want to talk about the ref jumped you. It usually don't happen like that. You know, so don't go in the ring cute and think that they ain't going to punch you in your nose. So when you're in the gym sparring, understand you're getting smacked around to make you to respect the game, because when you're in the real world, they ain't gonna take no mercy on you. So think of it the same way. All right, so anyway, Heru and Delilah, with the help of Akwi and Anmuk, they've been meeting and they decided to publish part of it so people have something. Look at sisters like that. Hey, girl. Anyway, so that's why it's out. All right, and so those of you, who don't have an extended background in history, in law, you could use this as a tool, as a study tool for yourself and family members who may find themselves in these types of problems. All right, clear up your concepts. But keep in mind, in doing so, what occurs is, this is the point. When you start making lawful arguments in a competent manner, what it does is actually kills the bonds. See, you don't really capture the instruments. What you do, you kill them by simply speaking up. But this is also why they don't teach trust law, because they don't want you to know that. They want you to think that you got to jump through a million hoops and fill in a lot of forms that they create under color to get you to sign stuff, and every time you sign stuff, you just created another bank bond. It's a negotiable instrument. Because these people don't know law. Make them think they're going to get a taffy. It's a big taffy. When you're going to walk down the other end of the block, you throw Jenny Craig, of course, you a taffy running down the block with no wrapper on. They done licked you. By the time you got to the other corner, you lost all kind of weight. So keep your wrapper on. You understand what I'm saying? It's a trust. Yes. And so they set up a world trust. And so write this down, global world trust. That's what all of the corporate states are going in and out of. Now, and keep in mind, social security numbers with the dashes is debtor. Without the dashes is creditor. Same number. And so whatever you're doing with them, they'll take that number without the dashes and then claim you on the debtor side with the dashes, and then they'll act as your trustee with the social security number without the dashes, and they go in and out of the Sister QB trust. And that's how the United States corporation companies have been using. This is why you can go in different venues that they'll have, and you'll see them still using those Sister QB trusts, whether people are physically living or physically dead. They don't die because they're against the world's largest estate. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Clear.
So don't get caught up in the idea because grandmom died that they ain't still using that Sister Q. Are we clear? So when you start declaring your nationality and making it public, it starts interfering with the movement of those things. That's why the nations are dumping them T-bonds. Because it's enough people speaking up, even though it's thousands speaking up. By numbers it's a lot, but by the overall it's a little. But it's enough to shake the world's governments where they're paying attention. And so what they're trying to do, the nations of the earth are dumping them T-bonds as fast as they can without collapsing their economies. And this is why, like, China bought about 2/3 of Detroit is under Chinese control now. 62% of all major buildings in southern Manhattan is under Chinese Manchurian control now. Your ports in Philadelphia is under Chinese control. Long Port and Los Angeles Port, the two largest import ports on the North Continent, Chinese controlling them now. Are we clear? And they're not transferring them with what you call dollars. There's them T-bonds that's against the Moorish estate. That's why the Europeans really upset, because they have to accept them because they're pristine. But they're not. See, it's like a catch-22. They can't tell them not to accept them. So what they're doing in like in Oklahoma now, I think their legislature is and in Canada, they're putting like a $300,000 tax on many of the houses to try to stop the Manchurians from buying houses, and they're buying them anyway because it's a drop in the bucket to them. Because Manchurian gold has backed the United States corporations' debt for over the last 50 years. And they misused it. Y'all do some research in England, what somebody called the London whale, and you'll understand that background. Go ahead, your brother Mike.
No. Taj, can you tell me how does that tie into the offshore accounts?
The offshore accounts, that's in the 2847, that's where they're cribbing all of them. So what they've been doing is freezing them. This is why you see a lot of Europeans. So look this up, you all. So-called wealthy white Americans denouncing their U.S. citizenship and nationalizing in other nation states. You don't see them filing on UCCs, and you don't see them trying to authenticate no birth certificate. They're nationalizing. Because it's like they're trying to leave the jurisdiction. And then what they're doing, they're still putting a levy on their accounts. Remember, for the last 10 years or so, they've been going after all those offshore accounts. And any corporate entities that got treaties with them, they ain't hiding them. And this is what else is happening. Look. So, see, this is what's happening. This is, and show you how it's working. All contracts and accounts that were originated in dollars in the contracts, according to the origination of the contracts, are to be converted into dollars. This is what they're doing. The contracts that were originating in dollars must be converted into a solvent currency backed by gold or silver from the other nation states, but not from the United States. Therefore, all the hidden accounts, what they got is derivative paper, a bunch of it, that they can't do a damn thing with. How about that? How about that? So do they have to find the account? No, all right, look. The private commercial paper instruments, right? This how they neutralize it. Say this is the T-bond, right? And the guy got a whole bunch of these in offshore in the Bahamas and stuff. And an offshore account, right? A whole bunch of these, right? And safe, right? And they take that one and they print 100 more of these on top of that one. That's same serial numbers, all that stuff. And so now, it costs more to keep it and preserve it than it's worth. It's dead paper. Called quantitative easing. So, do they need to find an account, or do you? I got it hidden under the mattress. Matter of fact, it is the mattress. It's skin size too. And that's one of them. Now you're going to pull the zipper on the side. It's going to be stuffed because that's all it's going to be good for. Can't pull it out because it can't convert it. That's what's really happening. That's why the Europeans are really upset. Go ahead.
But they also stuck their toe when they came out with the Real ID Act, when they was trying to worry about the Mexicans coming home, and they all put a thing out 2017, and they're de facto themselves.
Yeah.
And if they do say that, they're dishonest and get their head chopped off.
I love it. This is why when they was talking that trash, before, and we put out the poster, let's see, it was about 4 years ago, One of our books is Moors and Mexicans, right? So some of the Regency brothers came to the class in New York because the Mexican families wanted to use my book because they were doing a TV thing in Harlem, right? You know, the Europeans talking all kind of trash stuff. The Mexicans coming here taking American jobs and stuff. Right? The brothers put out a poster that says, we home. It was beautiful, man. I'll find that poster. How many, y'all got a picture? You got a picture here, Dr. Unam? With the Mexican brothers showing the flag with real history? I think I left that here. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. See, so the deal is we've got to get our people to stop their own corrupt language. No, the one with the Mexican brothers showing a poster. That's St. Maurice. Anyway, well, we'll show it to you next time. So as the Europeans are trying to argue about everybody else's nationality, you know what I'm saying? The brothers is home. You know what I mean? The Lone Star State is part of Mexico. Up to Nevada, bottom part of Khalifa's territory. Yeah, that's what it is. It's old Mexico. It's old Mexico. Home. You know, so the European, and this is where the Europeans so used to talking trash that he just putting his foot in his mouth, because when he starts enforcing those things, that's why, you know, you see Trump, he's talking about the fence and all that stuff. Notice how we retract all that stuff, he talking about no fence.
What your boy say? I ain't building no fence. I ain't paying for no fence.
But those of you who have a House Vote Resolution 192, read that again and get your concepts correct. Because as this year passes through, you know, the Europeans going to be trying to do the best they can to call all loans. So like say, if you have a house, even if you so-called think that you've been made payments and ain't missed nothing, they can still take the house because it's a mortgage. It's a dead pledge. It's not an allodial title. It's another reason why I showed you these things, so you use that as a pattern to make sure that you create a trust and put all your property in trust. You understand? See, because if there's no trust, then there's no challenge. Are we clear? Y'all got that? Y'all got that? If there's no trust, there's no challenge. Are we clear? All right? All right. Any more questions? There's a second round over there.
I got a question.
Yeah, we can mic. Why don't you stand up there and tell us?
No, I ain't got it. This one,
You got a
this
camera there.
No, it's for the brother right here in the front row. The white shirt. Earlier you asked a question. You said people with their nationality can still go and so to me will come from.
I was just saying something. Trends I've been noticing on the internet and ones on there putting out there like they're doing basketballs, but they're still black, white. So right. So yeah, it's like there's one person I wanted to put some things out there to eat with you, and I just wanted to get you out like that before I did. So it's like that's why I asked him. That's where I come from.
So I asked him that. I thought it was because I thought you guys would be accepted. Right. So let me ask a question to the guys. How many people still say black and white?
Say it again.
How many people still say black and white?
Both of them got come to these now.
It's in context of what? You say black and white?
I say that I know what level the person is in under, and then I correct them. I show them the proper way of calling themselves.
All right, so I don't mean as far as teaching a lesson. I mean in your everyday text.
No.
Right? If you're saying black and white. So there's a brother named Bey. He's in Colorado territory. And I did what he called table talk. I did an interview with him. And he asked me, how do I feel about different scholars? Because you got some people who have many more degrees than I do. And they still refer to people as black and white. So he asked me, how do I feel about scholars who have all of these degrees still using those terms, black and white? And does it put somewhat of a black eye on the Moorish Divine National Movement? It was October 2016 when I went to my first class. It was Taj Tarik Bey, Abdullah Bey, and Rosemary Bey. And I heard them break down what black meant. And that was the very last time I referred to myself, any of y'all, or anybody else that look like us as black. You ain't going to hear me slip up, not even in the context of teaching, and say something to somebody about any of us being black or them being white. I guess about 3 years ago, I had a 10-year-old boy at the York House.
Yeah.
His name was Anthony. Anthony said, yeah, they told me you to teach it. So I said, yeah, well, what you going to teach on? And I'm teasing him. I was like, I don't know, we're talking about something. So I started talking to him. I asked him what was his nationality. And he, I don't know. Which is the right answer. Because if you don't know, just say you don't know. Don't start making a bunch of uneducated guesses. You make yourself look like a fool after a while. I sat there with this 10-year-old boy, and in less than 10 minutes, I got him to understand that he wasn't black and what his nationality was. He's 10. So this ain't no knock on you, Joel. This ain't no knock on you or you. I'm not talking to anybody. I don't care what level they're on, what degree they have, on no terms of black and white. I'm going to talk to them how I talk to you. I asked that question because I'm standing there and I'm like, man, why would he ask that? Not knowing if it was from you or if it was from somebody else. So the only way to find out is to get clarity. So that's what I came to do. I'm just standing over there and the whole time Taj is going, I'm just going through all kinds of thoughts and emotions, but I ain't going to impose on, you know what I'm saying, on nobody else's stage. But I'm just going through like 1.5 million emotions, man, and just thinking about everything that he's talking about and how important it is. Like when you think about Abraham Lincoln, right? How many of y'all knew he was Asiatic or Asiatic descent? Y'all don't see the cartoons? Y'all don't see the books? Y'all don't see the pictures and the jokes? Y'all don't see the copper penny? Do y'all know they can't? Do y'all know they don't know where his body is at? Did y'all know that? Yeah, why not? Why can't they find the president's body? Why can't they find Kennedy's brain?
Yes.
Taj just sitting there telling y'all when he's reading Unam Sanctum, when he's reading the Pope's letter, they got 1,000,001 secrets. Why can't they find the president's body? Why, when he got buried, why did they dig him up and move him and put him in a crypt, and now he ain't in that crypt no more? What is it that they don't want you to know?
They don't want you to do it.
Yeah, I'm standing over there and I'm just, that's why I was standing, I don't know if y'all see me, I'm just rocking back and forth. Like, I want to say something, but I don't want to say nothing. But listen, man, history is so very important. That's where it all started for me as a youth, history. I was a history junkie. So I started reading, all about history. I didn't find out about true history until about 6 years ago when I bumped into Taj and Abdullah and I got these lessons from these guys. I got lesson after lesson after lesson. You learn by listening. You don't learn by going back and forth and saying, no, so-and-so told, no. Quiet your mind and listen. History, not his story. History. It's a difference. His story is different than history. Learn history. You learn history, you'll learn some law. And when you learn law, you gotta learn some history. Put it together. Taj mentioned one thing that the prophet mentioned, and I had this conversation with a brother named Nasser earlier today. Somebody I know got accused of pulling a gun on somebody. Now, let's just say this is a gun right here, right? This is a gun. This person that was accused of brandishing his gun is going to be him, right? Now, when I drop this on your lap, just freeze. Now, if I take this gun and put it on this guy's lap, that's what he'll do. He's scared to death of guns. But he was accused of pulling a gun on somebody. 20 police showed up at the house. 20 police showed up at the house over an accusation. No other witnesses, no videos, no nothing. They showed up. I went down to the 35th district today, and I'm like, listen, you know, this, that, third, blah, blah, blah. There ain't no video, there ain't no witnesses. Why did y'all come out like that? Well, it was said that it was said. It was said. So just because it was said, he was already found guilty. He wasn't even afforded due process. This is why it's important to learn law. No due process. He's already found guilty. They say you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? Not with us. With us, we're guilty until proven innocent. That history that he just talked about, that Unam Sanctum, that's the history we need to understand. They still operating off of the secret treaty of Verona and everything that falls under that. And we don't know that because we don't know about this stuff. Because we don't know history. I'm gonna snap. If y'all, don't get caught up in empire and power and Sunday football games and all of that type of stuff. Don't get so caught up in that you turn away from your history, from true history, because in the Bible it says the truth shall set you free. And the only way you're going to find the truth is to go back and get it. Because it's not here. You got to get a hold of some ancient books. You got to sit down and talk with some ancient people, some elders. Taj talked about the mothers giving the children memories from ancient past, from times past. All of us got the same thing. We all got it from our mothers. When you lay down at night and you dream, and you bumping into all these people and you feel like you know them, that's because you do. They're your ancestors. They're your ancestors. Don't be afraid of them. Talk to them. Embrace it. If you see people, if you see things, don't be freaked out. Talk to them. Our history, y'all. We say we got people who will argue us down tooth and nail that we're black. All you got to do is take them back in the history and ask them, how long have we been black? And then when they want to argue with you, then what you do, you hit them with history and fact. So what you do is you take people to stuff they know, right? So let's go back to 1964. Let's go back to 1963, before 64. You ever heard Malcolm X call anybody black? I'm asking.
No.
Any of y'all ever heard Martin Luther King call anybody black? What do they call him? So how long we been black? I mean, you're an elder, you know what I'm talking about. right? How long have we been black? Since 1968, when Martin King got assassinated and James Brown put forward "I'm Black and I'm Proud" in Boston, Massachusetts. April 5, 1968, history. I ain't making it up.
It's history.
Now, you got a couple years on me, so you know they were saying Negro, but your grandmother and grandfather said what?
Colored.
Colored. So how long we been black? But they will argue you down tooth and nail. We black. And take it all the way back to Kemet. And Kemet was the ancient black land. But there are lands that's older than Kemet. And nobody in those lands were called black. What about Nubia? That's old right now under 250 feet of water because of the dam that was built. You gotta go back in history. You gotta know that in Nubia, there are more pyramids, there are more temples, there are more sacred writings than what's in Kemet.
Yes.
It's under 250 feet of water for a reason. So you can't go back and see. But why they want to talk about black people? If you go down to the Yucatan, they ain't say nothing about no black people. Nowhere. But you see an Olmec statue that's as tall as this wall that date back to 1500 BC. That's 3,500 years ago. But you're telling me about a slave ship and you're telling me about black people. You got to embrace history. I ain't saying you got to sit there and just read day in and day out, but read sometimes. And embrace history, embrace your culture. And know that there were no Indians, it was you. There were no Indians, it was you. If there were Indians there, riddle me this. Let's just say me and the elder came from Nigeria 3,500 years ago. And we went to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. That's around Cancun and all around that area right there. And there was nothing but Indians over there. Is it possible that we made, me and this guy, me and the elder, that we made so much of an impression on these Indians that they made a bunch of statues and carvings that look like me and them, and none that look like them? Where are the statues of the Indians, y'all? From 3,500 years ago. I'll wait. There ain't none.
Islam. They haven't produced a slave ship yet for us to see, walk on, and have some kind of evidence of one being even in existence.
So I heard they got a group of brothers together. What was it? Nigerians or somebody? Yeah. So they supposed to be collecting finance, and they're on a mission to find these slave ships, right? And people are actually donating to this cause. Now, how many of y'all ever been to Jamestown, Virginia, or Williamsburg, Virginia, or something like that? Did any of y'all see any slave ships down there?
Nope.
Now that's where the first ship was supposed to have gone, right? 1619, 20 people. Mm-hmm. So I was down in Jamestown, Virginia, over at the visitor center. And the Daughters of American Revolution was there. And I was pissed off because I didn't have no feds, right? So I'm asking the lady, I said, well, listen, y'all ain't got no remnants, no slave ships, y'all ain't got no chains, no. Yeah, she looked, this little here, you know. She said, sir, she was appalled. She was actually acting like she was embarrassed and offended because I asked if you got any remnants. So we say, hey, I'm not the one bragging about it. You got it on your license plate, Jamestown, 1620. I'm not the one bragging about what happened in 1620. You are. So don't get offended when I come in and I ask if you got some remnants of your slave ship that you said you brought 20 of my people over here on and kicked this thing off. It's history. It's history.
I want you to read this paragraph and read the excerpt from the poem there.
Y'all see how Taj made me come down and work? I was supposed to be standing on the door. I can't believe it.
And set and ride, y'all.
From upon slender threads.
Go ahead and read the paragraphs. This is an excerpt from 1899, this is where an oil painting of Mataoka was being presented to be hung in the Senate. And this is from a welcome, a gift from London to be hung in the Senate here for Mataoka. And you know Mataoka, since you mentioned Jamestown, the first aristocracy set forth, is misrepresented in history as Pocahontas. Okay, read the paragraph and then read the poem.
With them 3 lines is the poem?
Yeah, just read the paragraph before it and the lines of the poem.
Upon slender threads often hang the momentous events of history. John Fiske, the historian, in his book, Virginia and Her Neighbors, speaks of Pocahontas as one of the noblest and loveliest characters in American history, and asserts that the rescue of Smith See, this when you know history. All right, let me start over. How many know the story of Pocahontas? I mean the real story. All right. So y'all know. So a couple of y'all know why I'm black.
How many know who John Fiske is?
So some of y'all know why I'm all right. Let's go. Upon the slender threads often hang the momentous events of history. John Fiske, the historian, in his book Virginia and Her Neighbors, speaks of Pocahontas as one of the noblest and loveliest characters in American history, and asserts that the rescue of Smith by her was an event of real historic importance. Without it, the subsequent relations of the Indians, of the English colonists, become incomprehensible. Forgive me. And he adds the significant words that but for her friendly service on more than one occasion, the tiny settlement would probably have perished. The charm of romance will ever hang over the story of Pocahontas, and that flower of the wilderness will ever shed its brightness and its fragrance over the rude, somber, and cruel scenes of our people's earlier struggles to get a foothold in the land whose inhabitants are now the stars of heaven, the leaves of the trees, and the sands of the sea. But far beyond this, it should not be forgotten that she was indeed the guardian spirit of the great founder captain, John Smith, and his feeble company, and who knows but for her what had been the New World's destiny. It is meet that her portrait should hang here in remembrance of her lovely character and her pious deeds, and the myriads that gaze upon it, wondering whence came the gentle spirit that dwelt in the savage breast, will be minded also that the men are brethren, and that even in the dark shadows of the forest primeval, there may shine a light from heaven, and there be found. The poem says, a spark of that immortal fire, by angels shared, by Allah given, to lift from earth our low desire.
So as you can see, they are Muslims. That's the point. And they told you differently. So that undermines their reconstructed history. That's why I had you read it.
So how many of y'all didn't know the story of Pocahontas? Just 2 people? All right, I'll tell y'all anyway. So you know her father was said to be like
Palatani.
the most powerful and one of the most ruthless chiefs around. He wasn't taking no crap. Now, this dude John Smith and his company, because that's what they called him in there, his company, named his crew of goons, was running around robbing and stealing and pillaging, doing everything that the Albion does. And let me be clear, because I've been called what they call a racist before. This ain't got nothing to do with me being racist, quote unquote, or me hating Albion. I'm just speaking fact. This is what they do. They thrive on destruction. So this is what they were doing. When the chief found out who it was, he went and got John Smith and his company. And they was going to take their heads off. Pocahontas came running out and said, whoa, hold on, Pop. I love that man. What? What do you mean you love this guy? This guy's been running around raping and robbing and stealing from your people. What do you mean you love this man? When they talk about right here how she saved him, she saved his ass. Because Pop didn't kill him. Now, her name wasn't Pocahontas. What was her name? Maduaka. Yeah, that wasn't going to be her name anymore. Her name was going to be now Rebecca Smith.
Yep.
And she was going to take a boat ride over to London with John Smith after they got married, right? Yeah, nobody never heard from her again. Now, we know that our society is a matriarchal society, right? And that heir is that daughter. So when he married her, and then she just happened to die or disappear, then the land becomes whose? It becomes his, right? And then that land was granted to who? The illustrious King James. And then you got that Virginia colony becoming Jamestown.
Yep.
Now you got Jamestown, Virginia, and that's where it all kicked off.
Yep.
History, y'all. History. History. You gotta learn history. That's why when I was reading this, I started laughing. And forgive me for laughing, but it was just funny to me. Because when you know the true history and you read some stuff, you know, some people get emotionally twisted. They read stuff and because of what we've been taught, it troubles people. But at some point you gotta be able to unlearn what you learn. You gotta know that you've been lied to. And you got to accept that you've been lied to. Because if you don't accept it, then you can't move past it. The only way to take a step past a certain thing is to accept a certain thing. When somebody in your family transitions, you don't like it, but you deal with it. And as soon as you accept it, you're able to move past it. The same thing with everything else in life. Accept the thing, move past the thing. We've been lied to. Just Taj talked about movies earlier. National Treasure, Da Vinci Code, all of these different movies. When Da Vinci Code came out, what did they say? What was the biggest commercial? What if everything you ever been taught was a lie? They kept running that over and over and over and over until listen, you know, now I give you a test. Go ask the people in your family that's religious how many of them seen Da Vinci Code. They ain't watching. The church told them not to. The church didn't want them to watch Da Vinci Code. Why not? Why not? It's only a movie. It's only a movie. Why can't I watch the Da Vinci Code? All right, now, I got an aunt. She refused to watch the Da Vinci Code, but she watched Spartacus. I don't know if any of y'all have seen Spartacus. I only seen it because she watched it. They listen. Huh? It's gory. They be chopping off heads, all kinds of blood, homosexual acts. She watched Spartacus, but she won't watch Da Vinci Code. That's crazy to me. History. And even in movies. I'll give you some movies to watch. There's a movie called The Giver. Any of y'all ever seen it? Yes. Anybody who hasn't seen The Giver, watch that movie. That movie is going to blow you away. I saw when Lucy came out, everybody was talking about Lucy. Lucy, taking you back to the first woman and taking you back to using 10% of your brain. And then what if you can use your whole brain and start to think stuff and things start to manifest and start to happen? Everybody was Lucy, Lucy, Lucy. Well, The Giver came out at the same time Lucy did. So I just happened to be coming out of Lucy and I was like, and right across the hall, The Giver was starting. So I went and watched it. Yeah, I snuck in. I snuck in. Good, right? They owe me, right? They were on my ancestral estate, right? So, but the giver blew me away so much that I had to turn around and do a class at the York House in Philadelphia on the movie. We actually showed the movie. We showed the movie in entirety. We were Skyping with Canaan, so they watched it along with us. This is how much this movie just like grabbed me like this, like, right? Before the movie started, I told everybody, I said, get a pen and a piece of paper. I want y'all to take notes. Because when this movie is over, we're going to discuss this movie. Listen, I was so damn happy. Because they had so many notes, I didn't have to say much. Because that lets me know that they see what I see. That lets me know that first eye is actually open. Because that movie, trust me, y'all, I can tell you a little bit about it. I don't want to give it away. The giver is an elder, right? So the elder has all the secrets. He has all the knowledge of history, right? Now they got all of these people living in this big old community, right? There's no sex to be had. There's no hugging. There's no kissing. There's no fighting. There's no nothing. They literally control everything. They control the way you think. Because every day when you leave the house, you got to walk over to the door and you got to push your hand on the thing and you get a shot. And what the shot does, it suppresses your memory. Vaccines, right? You get that shot. It suppresses your memory. Listen, you don't do this. That don't happen at this place. There's no shaking hands. There's even no memory of shaking hands, except for the giver.
Oh, the one of them, just one.
Just the giver. He
over and over again. This is from Pope Francis. There's his employee. Yeah, Pope Francis and his employee. And so that people who don't understand are not offended when they understand that he's the Pope's employee. You understand? That's a Pope's employee. But let's go down to him explaining so that you'll understand the shell corporations. Now somebody get the mic. Somebody get the mic. Somebody get the mic. Preferably a sister to read this. All right. Now, read from that point. Read from that point, and I'm going to go out. Read, you get read.
All efforts shall be made by the Grand Army of the Republic to spare life and property while undertaking any action whatsoever within the states of the Union, without exception. The Grand Army of the Republic is uniquely enabled by these orders to operate on the land of the 50 organic states for the purpose of securing the lives and properties of the American states and the American states' citizens.
Real quick, stop right there. Now, if you can read, you understand that he's actually telling you history about the shells without discussing them directly. But yet he's discussing them directly, but most people who don't have what you call history degrees wouldn't even know what they're reading, and he's telling you what I just put on the board. Oh, clear. Go ahead.
The Grand Army of the Republic is not a foreign army. It is composed primarily of American state citizens.
Notice the words and the phrases that he's using. All right, now, go ahead.
If required to take field position The local commanders shall make every effort to communicate the basis of their authority and the reasons for their presence on American state soil.
Notice how you make the distinction between the corporation and the land? All right, go ahead.
To ensure a prompt cessation of hostilities and a widespread understanding of the
Write that down, usurpation, so you can understand what you're talking about, and frauds.
And acts of frauds which have led to any conflict. All parties must be brought to understand the nature of the federal government, the limitations of its authority, and their own obligations to act in favor of the organic states of the Union.
You notice he's saying organic states, so now you must, when he says organic states, you're supposed to be able, now it would be one more shell up here, and you, being educated, were supposed to be naming which one it is. And if you fail to pick this one out, you're incompetent. You understand? And all the rest of them are United States too now. All right, continue, sister. Go ahead.
The Grand Army of the Republic shall continue to operate under General Orders 100 known as the
Libra Code.
Libra Code.
Write that down, Libra Code, y'all. So these are things you need in your literature. Libra Code. Because these things are operating and you need to know. So if you're doing anything, you need to know what you're functioning with and functioning under, and what they're functioning against you. Are we clear? All right, read it, says.
Extant from the pen of the last Republic President, Abraham.
So he's telling you that's the last Republic President. So, as you know, and we don't have to tell you, that most people are not aware that Lincoln was the last president. Are we clear? That's to demonstrate to you how many means Afrocentricity. Why no patient? No, it means incompetent. All right, continue read, sister.
All plainly stated grants of contractual authority evidenced in the Constitution for the United States of America.
Now, there you go. Now, which one is that, y'all, on the table? It is not. It is the first one in the front. Yes, you're right, but name the position. That's the organic United States, the agreement between the Moors and the Europeans, i.e. the deists, not Christians, were called Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Madison, all of the crew. You understand? That's what Obama was talking about when he went to Hikuta. All right? Now continue reading.
Remains in place. Remained in place. Subject to the good faith performance of the accompanying obligations and treaties.
So now you can see the Constitution for the United States of America remain in place subject to good faith performance of the accompanying obligations and treaties. Why do you think they don't talk about the treaties when they're teaching our people? Because the Constitution and treaty are to be looked at as one document. Because they're national wills. Now, read this is important. Go ahead.
Mr. Obama is the president of a governmental services corporation.
Is it shall?
Under contract to provide
stipulated services. To be organic. Now that's the small u. That's the agreement between the Moors and the Constantinians, i.e. the Union. Now you understand when they say Lincoln was trying to save the Union and bankrupted? No, he bankrupted that corporate entity. And then they killed him, they covered up, and then said that he bankrupted the United States organic. He did not. They secretly, the Congress set up an oligarchy and converted the debt to that bankrupt corporation onto the organic. And we, being the heirs, are back. What you don't know about history. Are we clear? and why a lot of people get confused what the politicians are doing in their corruption, and it's always costing the people. Now you know why. Because they are what? They set up a secret oligarchy, and they're raping you ever since. That's where your poverty is. Are we clear, you all? You're not poor, you're poor artificially. Under frauds and semantic deceit. That's why they don't teach you law and history. All right, continue to read, sister.
No orders, executive or otherwise, issued by Barack H. Obama pretending authority on the land of the American states while operating as president of the United States Corporation, nor as
He just named two shells right there. You must know the distinction, and you must be able to follow this. Are we clear? Go ahead.
Nor as the president of the United States of America, minor.
Emphasize. Now it's another shell. Continue.
Or owed any performance by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Ham, or any ordinary.
Ordinary is a cover word for people in both military and political office service with what you call less titles than the executive. Collectively, they're ordinaries. All right? So get familiar with these terms, but you need to know them when you're dealing with these people, particularly these administrators who are pretending to be judges. They're an ordinary. So if you're going to start trying to claim your estate, your language better match what you think you know. Because as soon as you demonstrate that you don't know, they're going to treat you as an incompetent. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you don't know your history and you're an heir. And since we're talking heirship, an incompetent heir can be declared not worthy or mature. That's another reason why they apply the word minority. Or people think it means Afrocentric numbers. It really means grown people that wear deep pants. No, really, you know, it's a legal status. Then it means they're not descendable in law. But they don't know that because they don't read law books. And so their leader guys are trained. They've been backing all U.S. T-bonds that have been on the stock market for all these years. Go ahead, continue.
Services to organic states and is on their payroll. He otherwise acts as a foreign dignitary representing the United States of America.
Now see how this emphasized?
Yeah.
So now you all understand that the United States is actually a foreign corporation and it's not a country. What happens if you think it's a country and you teach your children it's a country? You just gave up their birthright. You understand?
All right.
Go ahead. Go down.
What was the meaning of bankruptcy with the war, the Civil War?
That's the Civil War was set up to design the fraud that was to take place thereafter.
Well, what would he mean with bankruptcy?
He bankrupted that corporation because they were using him to undermine the republic. See this, keep this in mind. He ran for president of the corporate entity. The misinformation was that he ran for president of the United States organic. He couldn't because he's a member of the bar. That's why I told you that. But he was trying to protect it because they were trying to undermine it under the secretary of Rona. We're talking real history, not what the masses get. Now, so he's operating the United States Republic to preserve it, although he's not officially in that office. But he has the service contracts. Now, so these shells continue just as they were. These shells still continue. This is why the Pope is out in the history. So there is no lawful precedence after Lincoln. Everybody is still what? Dealing with that debt of that corporate entity that they can falsely, under fraud, converting on us. And this has been the whole politics. The whole modern politics is just BS here. Well, let's go down here. And read these last two, and then we'll go like over the floor, and then just talk. because I want your concepts to be correct. You all can